It's Mr. M here, and I'm home today. Sorry, I cannot be there. Um, Little under the weather. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you were able to get some work done on your Kiva games. Now, we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about this next core principle. I know that on the screen it says core principle 6. This is an old handout. But we're talking about core principle number 5, that economic systems that people create, they affect our lives greatly. Think about your life compared to that Maasai boy that we were reading about. That's because the economic systems differ greatly. So I'm starting at this spot because this is kind of the beginning, and I wanted you to know a couple of things before we then go to your homework. One of my classes, I think, did this. So if this was the block that completed all this, you can move ahead in this video to the next part. All right, but if you didn't, here's what we need to have. So you have to understand what a system is. A system is a way of doing things, right? On a smaller scale, I'm trying to create a system in my classroom. When the door closes, what do you guys say? Yeah, business time. And then you have your assignment pads out. I check them. You should be writing down homework. Okay, so we're establishing a system. Well, in the world, people have created these systems in which they exist, they live, and they create them to help them organize their actions. That's the blank up there. I think my little cursor will be there. So I don't know why I left that word off, but societies create systems to organize their actions on how to use their scarce resources, right? Core principle 1, people have to choose because there are limited resources in our world. Rules are written to help societies answer these are 3 economic questions, which are going to be below. Those rules affect our very lives, our choices, incentives, and behavior. So this is a pretty cool little graphic here to kind of show you the whole reason for economic systems, right? Scarcity. We have unlimited wants, we have limited resources, that's scarcity, and thus core principle 1, we have to make choices. And so every society has to answer these questions. What are we going to produce? How will we produce? And who are we producing things for? Okay? So every society has to have figured out or have something in place to answer these 3 questions. All right? I mean, you'll see pretty clear that in a traditional society, like with our Maasai boy, they don't produce a whole lot. They basically produce just to meet their needs. And how they produce things is probably just based on customs, right? And they're producing for each other. So it's very simple. The Maasai boy lives in a very simple economic system, that traditional system. So these are the types of economies in the world today. You have the traditional, which we're kind of focusing on, the command, which we get to later today, and the free market, which is our system. And then we have something over here called mixed. Well, I will be explaining that one a little bit later. Okay? All right, we're going to shoot on down to our traditional economy. This was homework for today. Okay, so you read through this. And hopefully you highlighted anything you thought was important, like when you come up here to these bold-faced words. You learned about some different examples of people out there. They kind of went through this over here. The Inuit's pretty close to us up in like Alaska, Canada. Basically, any Aboriginal people on any continent still live a traditional lifestyle. And I mean, there are people, this might be hard to believe, but there are people in the world today that have never had contact with outside civilization, like with us. It's true. I mean, they might have contact. They might see an airplane go over, that kind of a thing, but they choose to withdraw from any part of the civilized world. There's an island in the Indian Ocean with a group of Aboriginal people on it that will not allow anybody on the island. They kill you if you try to set foot on that island. People have sent maybe drones over that. They've gotten close, and they're always shooting arrows at them. So I think the country of India is closest to that island, I think, if I remember right. So they just leave it alone. And in the rainforest of the Amazon, remember the rainforest is so vast, so huge. There are people groups in there that have very almost no contact with the outside world except for maybe what flies over them. Okay, so clearly in a traditional economy, what people do is based on their traditions, right? They've been doing these things, uh, hunting, herding, and gathering. They just kind of follow in their parents' footsteps since the beginning of time, whenever that was. Okay? And then I'm going to go down to these boxes in a second. You also read a little bit about these advantages, disadvantages. I like this woman here. Looks like she's maybe in South America, maybe Asia. She's making some kind of a woven, could be like part of a, I don't think it'd be like a rug, but not really sure. But clearly she's not using any machines for something like this. She's doing this how she was taught by somebody, and that they've done it this way since who knows how long, right? Okay? All right, so here we go. This was your homework for today, so let's wrap this up. All right, a traditional economy is an economy that all the decisions, like what we produce, for whom, and how we're going to produce, it's all based on customs and traditions. Some examples there, you should have probably listed a couple of the ones that were in your reading there. I also include the Amish in our own country. Even though the Amish have only been around for maybe 200-300 years, they have chosen to withdraw from society and do things the way they do. Most of the time, they don't use any modern machinery. They use like wooden nails, when they're building buildings. They don't have any real modern conveniences at all. Now, one thing here, it says, are there any countries that are like a country that is just a traditional economy? No. No way. A country that existed only by tradition and doing things the way they've been doing them would be very backwards, would be very weak, and they would have fallen long ago. So no country has a traditional economy. Instead, there are people inside some countries that live a traditional way of life. All right, advantages. All right, so take a look at what you got there. Clearly, there's something that is comfortable about knowing your role in society. Something that's nice about knowing what's expected of you. There is not a lot of change, so there's not you can kind of feel good about the fact that there's not going to be like sudden change in your society. Everybody has to get used to something else. No, you're doing things that you've been doing for thousands of years, right? I think there's also a community aspect to all this, that people look out for each other. They share and look out for each other in this kind of a society. Disadvantages? Well, you don't have the modern conveniences of the world today. So no hospitals. I didn't get a chance to show you my lion hunt video showing Maasai chasing a lion with spears, and one of them gets knocked down by the lion. Well, there's no hospital to go to. So that's kind of a disadvantage. There's no economic growth with these societies. Their populations pretty much stay about the same. They're not going to be advancing beyond what they do. And that's probably good enough for now. Okay? All right, let's move on. Go to the next thing on your lesson for today.